Hello everyone, I have something quick to talk about, and it is about a movie that was released past weekend that really was a big downer, and that was Gods of Egypt. Now, I haven't released a review for this film, as well as Eddie the Eagle, which is going to be done later, but I want to talk about the film real quick. This film was really terrible. Gods of Egypt is beyond one of the worst films I've seen in the past few years, aside from Wrath of the Titans. And it's a real damn shame, too, because the director, Alex Proyas, was the person who directed The Crow. He was the person who directed Dark City. And this is... It's just terrible to see it. Now, Proyas, like any natural person, would be against his own criticisms. Or not his own criticisms, but criticisms by other people about his own movie. So here's what he says on Collider. He says, "Nothing confirms rampant stupidity faster than reading reviews of my own movies. I usually try to avoid the experience, but this one takes the cake. Often, to my great amusement, a critic will mention my past films in glowing terms, when at the time those same films were savaged, as if to highlight the critic's flawed belief on my descent into mediocrity." Now, I get what he's saying. Now, there's some films in the past that have been really poor. I mean, if you look at Empire Strikes Back, the initial response for that film was, this film wasn't good. It wasn't good, and it was disappointing. It was a disappointing film back then. But nowadays, we regard it as the best Star Wars film. And I can see why he would have a response like that. He continues, "You see, my dear fellow Facebookers, I have rarely gotten great reviews on any of my movies, apart from those by reviewers who think for themselves and make up their own opinions. Sadly, those types of reviewers are nearly all dead." That's not true, Alex. I'm sorry to say, Alex, your movies are great. Alright, your movies are great. Dark City is great. The Crow, fantastic rated R superhero film. If you want a good rated R superhero film that's not Deadpool, that would be the one I would say is a good rated R film. Good reviews often come many years after the movie has opened. Yeah, that's true, because with any good form of artwork, it does take time to form opinions, and to have good solid ones based on research. But nowadays, because we have social media and we have people like Chris Stuckman, who does analysis videos of movies he's watched. Quite recently, he did one for Star Wars: The Force Awakens, where he looked in depth into the film. And it's those people that can dissect a film like that truly try to make films look good, even though sometimes it may or may not seem a big movie at all. I don't like Signs, but he loves Signs. And that's the fun of it. We love movies so much that we disagree. He continues, "I guess I have the knack of rubbing reviewers the wrong way." Well, that could be true. I've always have. This time, of course, they have bigger axes to grind. They can rip into my movie while trying to make their mainly pale asses look so politically correct by screaming whitewash. Now, I'm going to pause there, because there's more of the quote. But here's the thing. When you're talking about a culture, this is the difference between being politically correct and actually representing a culture. See, you don't make... It's like if Princess and the Frog, it's set in Louisiana, in New Orleans, where it's predominantly African American, and have every single character be white. That is not politically correct. That's just misrepresenting the culture. That's ignoring the culture that is there. Egypt, you couldn't even bring Egyptians into it. At least one Egyptian into the film. That's the problem with your movie, Mr. Proyas. That's your problem, Mr. Proyas, is that it's not because it's not politically correct. I have my own issues with political correctness. This is just misrepresenting a culture. This is not even representing the culture that is derived from the myths and legends you are making your movie about. That's pretty much stupid. I'm sorry. Like the deranged idiots that they are. They fail to understand or choose to pretend not to understand what this movie is so as to serve some bizarre consensus of opinion which has nothing to do with the movie at all. It kind of does. Going back to what I said about representing cultures, it's like if I made a movie about Africa, okay? And I don't put in any Africans. That's just it. When you're talking about a film that represents its cultures, like Egyptian mythology, you need to have Egyptians. There's no going about it. You can't make a film like this and expect people to buy it. This is not a good film, Mr. Proyas. This is misrepresenting the Egyptian mythology and the community in which it was based from. This is not about political correctness. This is about representing it right. It's like if I were to take Hayao Miyazaki films, like The Hidden Fortress, and I replace every Asian character in that film with Germans. If I were to remake that film, I would put Germans in it. That would be a disservice to the original maker and the culture it was derived from. At least the Godzilla movie from 2014 actually based its roots in Tokyo, where it was originally taking place in the original source material, and it was where the original source was filmed. But here, you don't even film in Egypt. For one thing, you don't film in Egypt at all. And second, you don't have any Egyptians at all. So the only thing that is Egyptian in this case is the gods. But even then, the guys who play the gods are not even Egyptian either. So what's the point? I mean, you could have white people play Greek gods and Roman gods like they did in Percy Jackson and the Olympians. But you can't do it with Egyptian gods. It's like if you put a French guy with Buddha. That's a real big disservice. It doesn't work, Mr. Proya. He continues to say, "That's okay. This modern age of texting will probably make them go the way of the dinosaur or the newspaper shortly. Don't moviegoers text their friends with what they thought of a movie? I did. I texted people about what I thought about the movie. I even make YouTube videos about what I think of a movie. I give scores to these movies. And yours, by the way, got a 0 for a spoiler alert. Seems most critics spend their time trying to work out what most people will want to hear. No, that's not exactly true. Because if you look at some of the movies I've criticized, and even outside of YouTube, I've criticized Twilight for being a real piece of shit. And it is. 50 Shades of Grey, piece of shit. But people in my town, a lot of girls in my town thought it was the best thing in the world since Magic Mike. You see, this is the point about film, is that we are allowed to have discourse. Because that shows that, yes, it has problems, but we are able to learn from those problems and make better films. How do you do that? Why these days it is so easy. Just surf the net to read some other reviews or what bloggers are saying, no matter how misguided an opinion of a movie might be before it actually comes out. While that may be true, there can be some people who are extremely biased, and we've seen the way it's happened with Gamergate and how a lot of journalists, they keep getting bought by Activision and whatnot to say good things about a game that's totally a piece of shit. If you look at Assassin's Creed Unity, that was a piece of shit. It was a total piece of crap. Look at a critic in a room with a movie no one has ever seen, and they will not know what to make of it. Because, contrary to what a critic should probably be, they have no personal taste or opinion because they are basing their reviews on the status quo. Well, that's not so necessarily true, because I put my opinions in my film reviews. Chris Stuckman puts his opinions in his reviews. Jeremy Johns does the same thing. Decker Shadow does the same thing. Nostalgia Critic does the same thing. Like, almost any YouTube-based reviewer does that. But we also base it off of how a film is made. See, if your film is poorly made, we're going to bash you more for it, because if you don't take the time to necessarily work out through the problems of your film, that shows that you are not a competent filmmaker rather than you are a piss-poor one. I'm sorry. Because they are based out of the... None of them are brave enough to say, well, I like it, if it goes against consensuses. Well, it's not exactly true. I mean, I like movies that have Rotten Tomatoes scores of, 43. Blast from the Past, that one with Brendan Fraser, has, a 57 or a 47 on Rotten Tomatoes? But I still enjoy it. It's kooky, it's goofy, but I still like it. Before they are less than worthless. Now that anyone can post their opinion about anything from a movie to a pair of shoes to a hamburger, what value do they have? Nothing. Roger Ebert wasn't bad. He was a true film lover, at least. A failed filmmaker, which gave him a great deal of insight. His passion for film was contagious, and he shared this with his fans. He loved films, and his contribution to cinema was as a result, was positive. Well, yeah, but what makes a true film lover? That's the thing. It's because I don't like this term, a true something, like a true Christian, or a true film lover, or a true feminist. What is the basic definition? Because we don't know exactly what a film lover is. I have friends who love Transformers, but they love films as a whole. I regard Transformers to be one of the worst franchises of all time. But people love it. They love film. So what's the basis here? I don't get it. Now we have a pack of diseased vultures pecking at the bones of a dying carcass, trying to peck to the rhythm of the consensus. I applaud any filmgoer who values their own opinion enough to not base it on what the pack mentality says is good or bad. Well, that's true. I mean, I agree with that statement, but what you're doing is trying to defend your film, which everyone considers bad. Okay, here's the point where I'm criticizing you. You're so blind by your movie. You're so blind by the lack of work you put into this film that you think that everyone should be kissing its ass. What you say about having people who have different opinions is contradictory when you say that they should love it. That's the problem here, Alex. That's the problem. And that's the end of what he said on Facebook. And look, I do value, people's opinion when it comes to film, alright? There's some friends that I know that didn't quite like Hateful Eight, or that didn't like Star Wars The Force Awakens, but I love both of those films. I loved both of them. And I love that we have different contrasts, because That allows for discourse. That allows for us to brainstorm good ideas based on what we like and what we dislike. I value those people. But again, what you're saying is that we should kiss your ass and like your film. You're no better than Eon Bull for Alone in the Dark. You're no better than that. I know you're a great filmmaker. I love The Crow. I love Dark City. But man, did you pour out a really piss poor film. I love you, man. I like your opinion, but it doesn't work. Sorry. So, my name's Nicholas Jennings. Peace out, Cub Scouts.